All right, great guys to see you. Yeah, this is a good one. I think hopefully it's going to be a good live stream. Great to see you as usual, Charles Latora. You're there so early, often, even though you said that you're like mega exhausted. So if I don't see any more comments from you, I'll know why, kind of thing. Great to see you as well, Chrispy, Galactic. Harro, Bosma, like I said, I wasn't expecting to see you, so it's kind of nice that you popped in here. Yes, Brian R. Smith, it's actually my gardening hat, and I don't wear it near often enough. And today's a kind of an interesting day. We're going to go through it quickly with the. Oh, great! And there's the third person. I'm so glad's here for the final round of History Heroes. Who or what am I in World War I? Meandering Mike, great to see you. Great. Great to see you, Brian R. Smith and Tolemykus and William Arends. Yes, I've got your pictures, so thank you very much, and we'll go through them. Right away, we're going to go off to the narrative. So let me go and present the screen here. There we go. Oh, great to see you, Corvinus Wargaming. As you've mentioned before that the wrong way. That you I often have work at around this time, so it's super nice to see you. And we will be talking a little bit about the Persian thing, but nowhere near the amount of what I wanted to get into. But what's going to happen today is, I think, partially going to help facilitate that in the long run. So anyways, as per usual, welcome everyone. Please let me know and everybody else know what you've been up to for the past week, especially if it's about gaming. It would be super nice to know. The live stream fact checker about the first use of Phosgene gas was actually not what I said last week. I think I said it was like, just a couple of weeks ago. It did. So I've got a scan of it from one of the books. I think it's Martin Gilbert's Atlas book. Yeah, please as well let me know what you've been playing. Like I just started redoing Scenario 8 for the Soldiers game, and I also did, believe it or not, God, I'm a glutton for punishment. I reset up the Battle of Lus, the big push there from Decision Games. I want to take a look at the rule system and see if, like I said, I just want to see if it works right, the way they do it, and if it doesn't, then go the way I think it should have been done historically, which is having the bombardment first, then you move. Last week was the Battle of the Ardennes. We didn't even talk about it because I got sidetracked as per usual, but people did get points. I was actually hanging out with Zoe Dufour yesterday, who's not here today. She's at work. But I was mentioning about Big Bertha Bingo. I said, I think I'm the only one that's paying attention. She goes, yes, basically. I said, sometimes it doesn't work out, but it did work out this week for Tolemykus. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I wrote, I think he was the only one in the three of you guys that are basically in the running for the Share and Me book, which it's been so humid here. We've had so much rain over the past basically since spring, that all the, even Zoe Dufour was over here yesterday, and she's like, my God, the paper everywhere. It's just all curly and whatnot. So the book is, even the cover has had some whatevers, but I'm sure it'll be fine by the time it gets over to your place. And it'll be interesting to see who it is. Eric Goebel, great to see you. I haven't seen you in a while, so I hope you're doing well. Please let us know what you've been up to. Yes, and on a side note, I don't know if we'll probably get to it. I did see an interesting World War I. I think it was yes, it was published. It's a card game about World War I, the American involvement in the Great War, and it was published during the Great War. It's like a propaganda game, but I was like, oh, that's interesting to see. So Tolemykus, you're actually right now in the lead by 1 point due to the fact that you had the Battle of Tsingtao, which I should have waited to let Jeremy bring over, but she will, or he will. But anyways, and like I said before, even though other people are not, like, odds are, unless someone, I said yesterday to Zoe Dufour, and please don't do it. I said, unless someone's like a maniac and decides to post like 50 comments or something, guesses in like a minute, I'm like, well, technically I have to give them 50 points or whatever, but I'm like, don't do that. But I mean, you guys are all part of the thing. Like what happened last week. I mean, Corvinus Wargaming snatched the points, as far as I'm concerned, away from Brian R. Smith. He was like just a hair's breadth away, and didn't happen. So that's that. No, we don't have a pinup gal and guy of the week. I didn't get around to doing that. BGG game of the week? No, not really. But Harro Bosma did mention that he did a pre-order for the Mons, the Mad Minute from Compass Games. I didn't know anything about it, and then I go and zipped off to the link that he gave me, and I was like, holy smokes! So hopefully we'll take a look at that later. I would like to, anyways. The biggie for me coming up here is I'm going to take an oath. Quite frankly, I'll talk about it in a little bit. And I was like, Eric Goebel says, yeah, Saturdays are harder to join in the summer. Yes, it's one thing I'm starting to notice as well, Eric Goebel, with other things that I'm doing. A lot of people are just taking a summer hiatus, and it was like, we finished Weltkrieg Western Front August to December this week. Oh my gosh, that would be if you could. Let us in at some point a little bit more info. If I don't know if you have a blog site or something, but I would like to. It would be neat to. Oh my God! Well, it's Lone Warrior, but still, we'll get to it. So, anyways, a few of you people probably know about E.R. Bickford. He was a former writer for Fire and Movement magazine or something like that. But he just started a YouTube channel maybe last week or whatever. I watched a couple of his videos. They seem really interesting. And I was like, this name, it's just ringing a bell somewhere. And then I realized, oh my gosh, he contacted me via BGG a few months ago, mentioning that he had done an article about the Great War in Europe Deluxe or whatever, the game that I was that Hex to Hex gave me, which was anyways, and that kind of did snowball there. Pictures from Fort Erie taken by William Arends. We'll take a look at that. I wanted to mention I'm not sure if I did last week, the Canadian Great War Project. It looks really interesting. Really nice looking website. Paul Hederer just did another update. They did yet again another play test. This one's the Battle of Bucharest, scenario 25, late part of the campaign. Well, it says right there. And so there you go. Harro Bosma mentioning Mons 1914, the Mad Minute. Eric Goebel says, we threw a couple of videos up on TikTok, but didn't chrono the last few months. Okay. Oh, neat. World War I in color. I know, Charles Latora, you mentioned, you were like, oh, wow, a neat colorized picture there when I had the Kaiser and Franz Ferdinand. They were out in the woods or whatever for one of my things. Meandering Mike says his channel has been going for a few months, but he had to change the name so people could find it. Okay, interesting. Thanks, man. So anyways, this is all in the sources and links as per usual. There's a YouTube, it's the guy's channel is Rasmus S, and he's got a playlist of a bunch of episodes, I think, of Catastrophe in color and HD. And I didn't watch, I've only watched a little bit, but it's really darn good. Yet again, the Siege of Tsingtao, since it's the big Bertha bingo thingamajig. I saw a sweetheart of a site this week, Macedonia 1912-1918. It's I had to use the translate button. Who cares? The amount of information that's on that site is jaw-dropping. I was like, what in the world? Like, it's a rabbit hole and a half waiting for me there. It's like, okay, I can't wait to go there. The Western Front Association news and events, hopefully we'll go zippity quick to their site, as well as showing you the vast amount of chat. I mean, obviously you can't go to all the, I mean, hardly anybody can, to the chapter events, but some of them are online, and that's what I do. I go through the calendar to go and look to see which ones are going to be online. I'm like, okay, then I can sign them up. And then this afternoon, the World War I Historical Association is going to be talk. Richard Golke, I think that's how you pronounce his name, the president. He'll be doing, well, we're going to, I'll go show a picture, an image of it quickly. Important American leaders or something in the Great War. Like I said, we'll take a quickie look. And then yet again, nope, we're not going to be doing the Weltkrieg Section 22 trenches. I just didn't get around to doing it, but yet again, it's going to get towards what I'm doing about the oath. All right, let's get back to that for a second. I'm going to stop the screen because I'm going to show you the other bit. So essentially, I don't want to get into the specifics about it. This is, I think, is going to be effective for me. It's got to a point with the Great War and my exploration of it is basically I need to progress. I need to go step up my game and get to the next level or go wherever. And I'm not going to do that unless I make some changes in my life. And I know the way my mind works, and I did it in a smaller format with work. I don't want to get into the specifics about it, but let's say I've had some challenging moments at work, and I was getting at an impasse, and I figured out a way of getting out of that impasse for the way my mind works. I essentially gave my allegiance to my immediate supervisor because we work extremely well and I trust her implicitly. And it works. So every time I run into an issue at work or whatever, I just go, okay, I have to defer to, and it worked. So anyways, what I've decided to do now is I'm going to, I've written an oath, and I thought, oh, wait a minute, it's not long, don't worry, it's not, like I showed it to Zoe Dufour yesterday. I said, do you think this is okay? She said, yeah, no worries. But I was like, I want to do it in front of witnesses. That's the way these things work. But after that, I know the way my mind is. It's going to be binding, and it's going to cause me to steer in a certain way. I'm given right now an amazing opportunity as far as I'm concerned. I'm still okay in mind and body and whatnot. I don't know how much time I've got left, but I want to explore the Great War as much as I can, and I want to share it with other people, and I want to engage and interact. That's essentially it. And I'm also a gamer at heart, so that's why we're doing what we do, I think, as far as I'm concerned on this thing. So I'm going to share what I'm about to read to you guys, and that's that. And from then on in, it's going to basically frame how I go about my life as far as I'm concerned. So here we go. I'm going to see if well, first of all, I'm going to grab it. And then we're going to go off, and away we go. And like I said, I think this is going to be a wonderful opportunity for me, and I'm excited. So there we go. I solemnly swear to dedicate the rest of my life to the exploration of the Great War. I pledge to make decisions and perform actions that will facilitate being well in mind and body. I pledge to be humble during my journey and grateful for this opportunity that has been presented me. I pledge to share and engage with anyone who is interested in the Great War. This I solemnly swear. And that's that. It's over for me. I know the way my mind works. You got to remember, I just want to start taking better care of myself. And I also want to, like I said, I want to get to the next level. I want to get into article writing. I want to do a lot of other things. And I'm like, I can't go that level unless I make some changes in my life. There we go. It's over. Let's get back to the narrative here. Thank you, Chrispy Galactic. So I'm going to, I just want to, well, we don't have to get back. I just want to make sure what the heck I wanted to talk about next. So we did I did show you, did I show you his YouTube channel? I can't remember what the heck, if I did or not. I don't think so. So let's just make sure we go to it. It's just to show you. And like I said, we'll just go from there. So there it is, Gaming with ER Bickford. Oh, there's the video I was mentioning to you about the update and the Great War in Europe Deluxe that he did. And I watched why he's doing this channel, and he did a thing about train busting, and I just was the title of it was really interesting. I was like, okay, I want to learn a little bit. Oh my goodness, speak of the devil. Gaming with ER Bickford, thank you for the invitation, Charles Latora. Thanks for the promotion, Meandering. I'm like, there you go. This is hilarious. So, anyways, that's the first bit that I wanted to get through here. Let's see, what else did I wanted to show? Yes, was the next thing was going to be the pictures from Fort Erie taken by William Arends. So let me stop the screen, and then I have to go and grab the thing. I'm the devil. There you go. Yes. All right, so hold on here. I've got to get the pictures out. Where are you? There you are, William. Okay. And I'm just going to make sure, present the screen. All right, there you go. Like I said, I'm going to get rid of me so that way you guys can see it a bit better. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. I don't want to get too funky. But that's Fort Erie. We'll also get to the little bit there that you wrote down. But for goodness sakes, chime in, William Arends, or your pictures, for goodness sakes. So Yeah, you guys know way more about these types of things than I do. I guess that's a gun slit. Is that what that is? It reminds me of, I remember going to a castle once and they had the little arrow or murder holes or whatever the hell they're called. But I guess, geez, talk about a limited range as well. That's the whole point, I guess, for yourself as well. But Charles Latora, man, your mic sounds like you got competition. Yes, there we go. On the night of the 12th of August, 1814, as a prelude to British attack on Fort Erie, an expedition was mounted against 3 armed American schooners anchored off the fort. Captain Alexander Dobbs, Royal Navy, embarked with 70 seamen and Marines and 6 bateaux, which had been portaged from Frenchman's Creek, and by a ruse got close enough to cut the hawsers and board and capture the Ohio and Somers. The 3rd vessel, Porcupine, escaped. Dobbs' victory was the last naval action fought on the Great Lakes in the War of 1812. Interesting. And I wonder if there's been a few War of 1812 naval games out lately, hasn't there? Oh, I like that blue. So I wonder what this place is. God, those. Oh, there you go, Charles Latora. A nice collar for you. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Didn't expect to see you, Zoe Dufour. I hope you're doing well. We were chit-chatting a bit about you, actually. So and there's Fort Erie. 3 fortifications occupied this site. The first, 1764 to 1779, and second, 1783 to 1803. Located at lower levels, were abandoned when ice and water inundated the works. The third, Fort Erie, built between 1805 and 1808, was repaired in January 1814, but was captured by an invading American army in July of that same year. The Americans used it as a base for subsequent operations, retreated here after their defeat at Lundy's Lane, survived a siege by the British in August and September, and destroyed the fort on November 5th, 1814. It was rebuilt by the Niagara Parks Commission in 1937 to 1939. Oh, neat. William Arends says the fort was destroyed by the Americans when they left in 1814. Well, there you go. You just... Well, thank you, William Arends. All right. Oh, okay, that's the end of the pictures, which is kind of good because I just reminded myself. It's like, wait a minute, I haven't even started What Am I in World War One. However, I do have the very tail end of what you had put in, William Arends. So I'm going to pop this onto the banners very quickly. Fort Erie was built by the British across from Buffalo, New York. It was occupied by the U.S. Army late in the War of 1812, you mentioned. And then you said a battle was fought in the summer of 1814 with the British regulars, Canadian militia, and their First Nation Indigenous allies, and unsuccessfully attempting to retake the fort. Thank you again, William Arends. And wait until you see his ATA this week. Oh, I'm like, well, it's just because I've also got a soft spot for the Great War in Africa, and he just gives it to me in spades this week. I was like, thank you. All right, so what am I in World War One? Charles Latora says, Chris, I still owe you a pic of my family crest. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. A half decent res one. I've tried, Charles Latora, to do some funky magic with it, but I'm starting with it from just a really bad raster image, and there's nothing you can do, man. You can put as much lipstick on you want it. I'm not going to get it any better. So thank you. I'd love to have one of your thing on there. All right, here we go with the first clue. Let's go, guys and girls. Let's see what happens here. Oh, my gosh. I'm sorry. But this, to me, is exciting as hell. So, oh, my God, except Zoe Dufour. You're not allowed to. Zoe Dufour knows the answer. Don't you do a peep or whatever. So there you go. I came from all nations that fought in the Great War except Japan. Who or what am I? And I'll put it in the, I'm going to put it in the, no guessing for me. Exactly, Zoe Dufour. I forgot. Well, as we know, we didn't expect you to be here. So I'll put it in the comments as well. But here we go. Charles Latora, how do we get it to you? If you send it off to Meandering Mike if you wish. I'm sure he'll be able to do it. Oh, sorry, I only got to pop it in there. All right. So we're going off to the second clue. Jeepers jumping. Yeah, it was nice to talk to Zoe Dufour about it yesterday, actually. So, and here's your second clue. There were 8 to 9 million of us. Who or what am I? All right. And there, I just popped it in the comments. Still no one's guessing. You're getting points for guessing. Goodness gracious me, people. Oh my gosh. All right. And I'll put that in the comments. Females in service, Charles Latora says. You're going to get a point, but you are incorrect. Let me pop you a point. All right. And the third clue, I'll put it in the comments first. We'll see how that goes up. Get in there. And the third clue is we showed up mostly during the mobile phases of the war and throughout the Eastern Front. Who or what am I? Tolemykus says wagons. You're going to get a point, and now you're 2 points in the lead, but you are incorrect. Oh my gosh. This is, I'm sorry, man, but this is getting like, for me anyways, I'm like, yeah, this is getting very interesting. Meandering Mike says cavalry charges. You're going to get a point, but you are incorrect. Oh my God. Okay, and here comes the next comment. Brian R. Smith says horses. You're going to get a point, but you're incorrect. Oh my God, this is so awesome. Okay. And the next one, I just popped it in the comments. About 11% of the Austro-Hungarian army ended up being me. Who or what am I? Gaming with ER Bickford says tank. You're going to get your first point, but you are incorrect as well. Charles Latora, you say airplanes. You're going to get a point, but you are also incorrect. Oh my gosh. Meandering Mike says casket dwellers. You're incorrect, but you're going to get a point. Oh my goodness. Okay. We're getting down to 2 left, guys. 2. And like I was saying to Zoe Dufour yesterday, we've only had one once. Where the hell is Tolemykus? What the hell's going on with him? Oh my gosh. All right. And then here goes the next one. The British offered the Turks a lot of money at Kut to try and avoid having more of me. Who or what am I? Are we going to have to go to... Well, I don't know how we would work this out. Oh, no, what am I saying? Where's Tolemykus? You've already been doing bloody... Charles Latora! You get it. Correct. Oh my God, Corvinus Wargaming right afterwards. That is correct. Prisoners of war. And I'll put it in the comments. Wow. Oh my gosh. I think you got it, Tolemykus. I think you just got it by a point. Hold on here. Holy smokeronies. And then I was going to put, the last one was going to be, we were often asked to switch sides. And I'll get rid of, hold on, the banners. Well done, Charles Latora. Holy moly. So hold on here, and then I'm going to, oh, I didn't put it in there. So I'm going to, well, the picture I'll show you for now, since we'll, Chrispy Galactic says surgeons. Nope, but well, you know now, because you were, unless you just got back in here. Hold on here, I've got to, I'm just going to pop in a little picture here of something. Well done. Let me go and grab the points, but I think, Tolemykus, you're going to have to send me your address so I can send that book off to you. We're going to find out, but I'm pretty darn sure you got Meandering Mike by 1 point. Jesus, that was neat. Well, for me it was. Okay, so this is, yep, okay, you can see it. I'll just tell you what it is. So that's from the internet, the Imperial War Museum's site. It's scenes at Soltau Prisoner of War Camp 1916-17. This is the prison compound showing huts and main road with prisoners of various nationalities in the foreground, and it's part of the Percy Jones collection. Let me see if I got the points right here. So 59. Oh my God. Oh my God. Unless Tolemykus, you just did one. If you just, I think, if you just did one thing. Oh my God. We're tied at 60 points each. Tolemykus and Meandering Mike, 60 points each. That's insanity. Well done, Charles. Brian R. Smith says, yeah. Oh, gosh. I'm going to have to figure this one out. So, well, do we do, like, yeah, we'll figure out something. So so basically it's down to you two. I'll figure it out at some point in time. Like, don't worry. I want to get this out, and start round 3, which is, I think, really exciting. So you're right. Meandering Mike had suggested it, I think, last week. So that'll be the 3. I think the 3 prizes. I think, and each person, whoever the winner is for the 3rd round. Remember, we're going to use the Big Bertha Bingo numbers still to tally up, and it certainly helped Tolemykus out. Meandering Mike says, "I will bow out since I had last season." Okie doke. I will take your thing then. So Tolemykus, Meandering Mike is honorably discharging or whatever. He's going to give you. You're going to get the Share Me book. So congratulations, man. And I will say this, Tolemykus, it was wild to see you come out of nowhere. Because it was Brian R. Smith and Meandering Mike were duking it out there week in, week out there for a long time, and then you just kind of like wiggled on in here. Yes, I was thinking about that, a showdown question, but Meandering Mike he's going to go for it. So, yeah, please, Tolemykus, you can get my email address via, like onto BGG via my, or also the YouTube link. My channel or whatever, please send me your thing and I will send this out ASAP. So anyways, for the 3rd round thing, it'll be the Audible book. Oh, darn it. I can't remember the name of the title of the was it The Great War or whatever, but it's a big honker of a book, several hours to listen to it. And that was donated by Hissy Cat. And then the second choice will be either coffee or tea of your choice from Gamers with Coffee, which I think is totally cool. And then the 3rd one will be a digital subscription to War Diary magazine, which I think is totally cool. So we'll start that off next week. All right, let me get rid of this one. I can get rid of that, get rid of that. Now we can go off to the stuff that I would like to take a look at. Okay, what time are we? Okay, we're 27 minutes. We're doing good. We're doing okay. Yeah, let's go take a quickie look at this game because it knocked me on my socks here. Zoe Dufour says, "Congrats." So does Chrispy Galactic. Yeah, Tolemykus, right on, man. Let me pop this into the thingamajig. This, I don't know about you guys, but I was like, whoa, this is interesting. Just due to the fact that the battle, I'm like, so this is going to be a really gritty sized game, I would assume. Oh, really? I know of that person. There we go. So there you go. Mons the Mad Minute. Harro Bosma had mentioned this to me, and I was taking a quickie look, and then they're like, "This is a big game," and I was like, "What do you mean a big game? This is not like a big, huge, wide battle. You're not doing the whole whatevers." But they're like the 2 maps cover the entire length of the Condé Canal, 1,500 counters. Oh my gosh! Have every unit from the British Expeditionary Force and the German First Army. And that's at what level? Half battalions and batteries. Jeepers, can you guys see this somewhat? Look at that. It looks pretty interesting. I mean, $80. Not bad. Looks good to me. And it's got that kind of look again too. Is that doing that thing? There we go. I don't know about you guys, but it seems to look similar to the counters that we saw with VUCA simulations, like the Caporetto one or the Knock Paris one, or and we're about to go take a look. The Paul Hederer stuff, 1916 Prelude to Blitzkrieg. Let's go there. Let's go take a look. All right, everything's working good. I just have to bump this up. I always forget that BGG doesn't do a very good job there. Maybe that's a bit too much. So we'll go there. Where are you here? Yeah, so this is the game I was telling you about. Well, let's take a quickie look. So American the War card game. I don't know how the hell I ended up finding this, but I was like, oh, this seems rather, there's so little information about it. It's not funny, but you can see there, 28th Division from August. Just, oh, I'm like, anyways, it got my little mind working, thinking about other, like, oh boy, could I do something? You know, no, like I said, just give you ideas. Here we go. We'll go to the 1916 Prelude to Blitzkrieg and take a look at what Paul Hederer's been yabbering on about very quickly. Just from our latest scenario development, we skipped to relatively late in the campaign, covering the Battle of Bucharest, which lasted from November to around 6th of December. The scenario is only 6 turns long, but covers a fairly large area. We were especially happy with how the rail supply and command system slotted perfectly into the scenario. We were curious how they would work in late campaign with the Central Powers advancing rapidly and using the repaired Romanian rail network. It's very gratifying to see that the systems model this very fluid phase of the campaign. In the north, the Central Powers have forced their way through the Carpathian Mountains and are beginning to swing east to advance towards Bucharest. German heavy artillery has helped to pave the way through the mountains. And I thought this was kind of neat. Did you see that? Where's that? Maybe I'm too big. No, it's the next picture here. Yeah, look at this little Danube crossing counter. I thought that was kind of neat. And then there's the whole area. But as per usual, Charles Torres says too many counters for me, 2 or 3. Yeah, it's it just seems like, is that going to be like a Gauss type thing or whatever, you know what I mean? I don't know what that level, like what scale they use, but I was like, holy smokes, this seems like it's going to be some very, I guess it could take a long time to make one turn or what have you if you've got so much on the plate here. Okay, let me take a look at what I had on the yes, you know what? I do want to mention this. We're going to take a quickie look. God damn it, it drives me nuts reading all the time, but I do want to put a shout out, and I'm as guilty as anybody else for this bit, and it's trying to see if I missed. No, I haven't. So I'll put me sideways for a bit. So this is I just copied and pasted an email I got from Lone Warrior Magazine, the editor. Basically, just a shout out to say help. We would love to have some more submissions and whatnot. And he goes through about here. I'm not going to read the whole thing because we got other stuff to do. But I did want to. I will post it on the community thing so that way you guys can read it later. And I've got a link for Lone Warrior Magazine and whatnot. Their blog, whatnot. Great place. I spend $15 a year American for it, and I get an electronic quarterly. And or is it a quarterly? And I think it's maybe, yeah, I think so. But it's worth every penny as far as I'm concerned. But I'm terrible. I've been a member for years and I've never submitted a single thing. I just do comments or whatever. But this guy, they're looking for anything, just like even a screenshot or what have you. So like I said, and I try to give those guys as much love as I can. They're just good people. They're just like us, for Christ's sake. So, I mean, well, they are us. Goodness gracious me. So I've done that. Hold on. I want to get back to the narrative quickly to make sure that, as per usual, I'm going all over the place. So I put the links in. Let's get into the real stuff. Like I've showed you that there's the World War I in color and HD. You can go in the sources and links if you want to go and watch some really good darn stuff. But I do want to go to the Macedonia site, so to just kind of to hopefully get you going. Oh yeah, this does look good. Hold on here, I got to pop her in. Then we're going to go off into, I guess, current event stuff. We'll go to the ATA, which is great. Like I said, it's William Arends found some material from Germany, East Africa, which was like fantastic. Charles Latora says, Gauss, technical chrome-plated rules. Tried Henut. The CRT made me put it away. I was watching, the guy never finished, but he did some spectacular videos. I was like, just unbelievable videos on Gauss. I think, what was it called? Monster in My Basement or something like that. But anyways, here, present the screen. He hasn't done one in ages, but my gosh, they were good. So there you go. I'll make me disappear. So this is, I'm pretty darn sure this, unless it did it in auto translate, but I'm pretty damn sure this thing is all in Macedonian or whatever language. But it's, so anyways, I don't know how the hell I ended up, oh yeah, of course, I was looking for a picture for this guy, for the guy to the right here, this, which I did post, for Serbian Statesman, because I was using it for the build-up after Franz Ferdinand there got assassinated with his wife, you know, in the build-up to the British getting in there. I was like, okay, let's do a day-by-day thingamajig. But if you go off to the side here, take a look at this. America, like it just goes on and on and on. It's, I'm like, look, it's just, I was going, oh my God, I had to stop because I was just like, you're going to be here for the rest of your flipping life. Oh my goodness gracious me is what I'm trying to say. All right, so thank goodness I got to show you that site. It's just waiting for you there. It's in the sources and links, and oh my gosh, I can't wait to go and spend some time on it. Let's start doing the ATA fun stuff, and then we'll go to the week that was, and we'll see how we're doing. All right, so I'm going to present the screen here, William Arends. I'm popping your ATA on. Boink. I think I can put me sideways. Yeah. All right. Thank you again, William Arends. This was really neat to read. And it's just, well, I mean, it's a completely different perspective on things. Corvinus Wargaming, the Macedonia site opens in English for me. Okay, thank you. What the hell? There was something I went to this week, and I had to like go berserk. Maybe it was a link from there or whatever. But thanks for letting me know. German East African news with the free of charge insert. Official information for German East Africa, an illustrated entertainment insert. The published organ of the Business Association of Dar es Salaam and the Hinterlands Agricultural Association. Oh my gosh, William Arends, thank you. Oh, this is just like a treasure. Morogoro, July 7th, 1916, published twice a week. Official news, in our colony's theater of war. On the 9th of June, the unit Kongia had collided with the enemy on the Rovuma. Hold on. 2 enemy troops were observed to be hit. 1 askari from our side was wounded. The contact with the enemy on the 22nd of June by Boyago was also caused 1 askari to receive wounds, with Sergeant Worming and 2 askari missing in action. The unit Galvit on the 28th of June shot at an English automobile north of Mbule. 3 officers and 1 ordnance troop fell in this encounter. On the 29th of June, an English machine gun unit suffered 1 officer and 20 soldiers killed, with another 20 soldiers wounded. This time, our side took no losses. The unit Pencel Court shot at an English automobile on the street of Kilemensinka Lukagura. The chauffeur of the vehicle was shot. 5 Europeans, apparently officers, were either killed or perhaps seriously wounded. In yet more confrontations with the enemy by Miambule and in the vicinity of Moa, the enemy lost 3 Indian troops. In the battles against indigenous troops by Kufona village, 21 indigenous fell. On our side, 1 askari was wounded. The unit Ruthenbeck on the 2nd of July shot at enemy supply trucks by Sindemi. Here, 1 European was hit, 1 vehicle was destroyed, another was stopped and demolished. The unit Blumenkrom had a 2nd of July collision with enemy companies by Ubina, a location that was being besieged by the enemy. The enemy lost 1 European killed there. No losses occurred in our ranks. In the battle by Katakar, Sergeant Glock was taken prisoner. Nearby, there was no other activity. Warships shot at Matanda, Sutam, and Bayamoyo. We suffered no losses. Piloted aircraft threw bombs at Dar es Salaam, but caused no noticeable damage. At a skirmish by Magamba on the 25th of June, 1 askari was declared missing in action, while from the unit Grau, from those askari listed as missing in action, 3 askari have returned to the ranks. On the 2nd page of the paper, there was this short notice. From our colony, Morogoro, The Herr Dr. Hoffman, a dentist, will perform a consultation hour on the 6th of July, 1916, in the back of the police station. Another notice reads, the hero's death for Kaiser and Reich has befallen our best comrade of the reserve, Hans Kruger. In true fulfillment of his duty, he died in action from enemy fire. Meandering Mike says, Blumenkram. I immediately thought of the Blue Man Group. Oh my gosh, I haven't heard of that, them in a while. In true fulfillment of his duty, he died in action from enemy fire. His comrades of the battery from. And another notice lists all the items for sale at a local merchant. These are items readily available in this colony, which are probably in short supply in Germany and Austria-Hungary. You're darn right. You're right, William Arends, for sure. Julius Gruber, oil mill, Dar es Salaam, mineral oil, coconut oil, sesame oil, seeds, honey, fragments, vinegar, pepper, cinnamon, curry, cloves, mustard, salt, coffee, whiskey, liquors, cigarettes, tobacco, cooking crates, field. I don't know what the heck a cooking crate is. Cooking crates, field beds, ironwares, and hemp ropes. Thank you, William Arends. And I'm going to pop that off. I don't have to see that. Hold on here. Stop the screen. Boink. Okay, we've done that. Yeah, thanks, man. I don't know about you guys, but obviously it's a different scale of the way they start talking about, like, one person here, three people there. And I love the way they differentiate often about a European was killed or whatever. It seems to be like that's very important to report on. I thought that was kind of neat. Let's go and share the, hold on here, I got to pop it up here. So I'm going to show you very quickly the Western Front Association news. Just remember, I can't remember how much money I pay a year. I just paid, I think I pay about $70 Canadian a year. It's a bit pricey, I guess, but it's, as far as I'm concerned, worth every bloody penny. This is the biggie. As far as, I don't know of any other bigger, I don't know of any bigger Great War site out there, to be honest with you. They're pretty big. So anyways, they have, this is their latest news. I just wanted you to go take a look. And a fair amount of this material, like as far as I know, like here on the WFA's YouTube channel, it's free. Anybody can get to it. Some of this stuff down here, it's members only, where you can start getting into the, want to go and take a look at all the old magazines that they've scanned and transcribed and so on and so forth. Just amazing stuff here. And then it gets on into the branch events and about this article here. He seems like an interesting character, that's for bloody sure. And then this guy, they wanted to go and find out who the heck this person was, and he ended up finding out that guy was involved in 5 different fronts, for goodness sakes. Hold on here, I want to grab the link for just to quickly show you all the crazy events that's available. And we still got, oh my God, 15 minutes, so we're going to have to hustle. So this, like, for example, this one's online. So I'll be able to sign up for that one, no problem. That'll be great. But as you can see, a ton of these are, hold on, I'll try to get it a bit bigger. So, or maybe that's a bit, yeah, that's all right. And then I'll just, no, it's not enough because you can't see anywhere. How's that? There we go. So there, I mean, look at that. I mean, I just hope to God that somehow they make some of this stuff available. It's like, it's irritating that it's like, for example, like this one here, 3 battles for Gaza and the advance to Jerusalem. It's at the Birmingham chapter. Well, that's not going to help me much, you know, that type of stuff. It's like, oh, darn it. So hopefully they do bring, I mean, it's just like, it just goes on. And this, the Great War in Africa, taught by Anne Sampson. She's going to be doing the one up here, I do believe. Yeah, that's there. She's doing that one as well. Oh, darn it. That's just irritating. You know, I'm like, come on. But, you know, it's like, well, it is. It's what do you call it? It's too much of a tease. So, okay, I showed you that. Oh, yes, I do want to show you the lecture. Hold on quickly. So this will be on at this afternoon at 1:30. Now, this is a completely different, I pay maybe $40 American for these guys, for this thing. Hold on, if you get, I'll try to make it a bit. There we go. So this is going to be on at 1:30. It's a much smaller association, much more accessible. Like I said, later on, when I start thinking about being able to perhaps contribute towards like writing articles or whatever, these are probably the first people I'm going to reach out to, I think. Or maybe the Canadian chapter for Western Front Association, but that's long ways away for me, that's for sure. But at least I'm hopefully, like I said, going in the right direction. Okay, let's go towards the week, and then we can go. We'll start talking from there. All right, hold on. Let's see if I can. Nope, that's the wrong. There we go. And then, yeah, because we're doing not too bad. I want to make sure. Well, let's see that. But anyways, like I said, from here on in, anyways, at least this is going to be my focus. Trying to, everything is just going to frame towards doing this. Well, not the live stream, but I mean, my exploration towards the Great War. The week that was for July 7th to the 13th, 1916. July 7th, British again advance along the portion of the Leipzig redoubt carried on Thiepval Plateau. Oh my gosh, I'll say this on a side note. I had two people, a Belgian and a French Canadian, help me out with pronunciation this week, and both of them had difficulties with some of these words. So I was like, okay, I feel a bit, well, you know what I mean? It was like at least somebody's suffering with me or whatever. Fighting at Auvillers and east of La Boisselle. British win Cantal-Mazon, but it is not held. Russians reach Manovichi Station at Kovel-Sarny Railway in northern Lutsk salient. Italians continue advance between Bretna and the Adagi. Italians also carry two enemy positions north of Asiago. In East Africa, General Smuts occupies Tanga, the terminus of the Usambara Railway. Darn it, you know what would have been nice is taking a look at that German East Africa map. When we were looking at William Arends' ATA, shoot. Congratulatory messages to troops from King George. On the 8th of July, a Russo-Japanese agreement in regard to the Far East is signed and announced. Gosh, I would like to find out more about that, which I could. After Charles Latora says, after I get Rebel Fury done, I want to get Shoots, Tarupa, and Death in the Trenches to the table soon. Cool. Geez, the Death in the Trenches, That'll be, I think Eric Goebbels played that. Well, he's a monster Great War collector and player anyways. Russians break through north of Lutsk, Order in Council. And I have been reading up on this a little bit. I was mentioning last week about Article 18 of the Declaration of London. That's the thing about blockade and contraband. I find it really quite interesting. Order in Council rescinds the Declaration of London of February 25th, 1909, and all orders arising therefrom. Russians break through north of Lutsk and cross the upper Stockhold at Ugly and Arsenovich, having advanced 25 miles in 4 days on a 40-mile front. South of the Dniester, Russians capture Delatin and threaten the right bank of von Bothmer's army. British penetrate south parts of Tron Wood. Hand-to-hand fighting at Auvillers. French take Hadricourt. Violent artillery duel at Verdun. I hope I find the word that was like, I don't know if it's here, but it was like, are you serious? You pronounce it that way? And both the Belgian person and the French-Canadian person were like, yep. I was like, whoa. Heavy rain hampers operations all along the Western Front. Corvinus Wargaming says, if there's an Ottoman battle that comes up in the war summary narrative, I could try translating an Ottoman newspaper. That would be flippin' amazing. Oh, yes, please. Heavy rain hampers operations all along the Western Front. What an effing nightmare that must be. I'm just thinking, not just for everybody, obviously the infantrymen, but you imagine trying to move that artillery. Holy. And I was reading up about bits of artillery. Well, I think it's in the war summary, so whoever sticks around for the after hours will hear it. But they're talking about the heavy artillery pieces had to be mounted on concrete blocks and stuff or whatever. I was like, whoa, all these things I just do not know about. July 9th, 2 German airplane raids on southeast coast with no damage reported. English make slight progress at Auvillers. Fighting continues on Tron Wood. French advance along Bray. Perron Road, take Biache and reach, is that the one? No, that's not. And reach the outskirts of Barlois. French air squadrons bomb Hem and Boulancourt. Turks threaten attack on the Tigris. German submarine Deutschland arrives at Norfolk, Virginia from Bremen and proceeds with mails and cargo to Baltimore. Yep, Charles Latora, you and I, man, I'm like, this is so wild. These big giant, I just keep thinking of those whale sharks. I know they're not, the submarines are not that big, but it's like, it just reminds me of, every time I keep hearing about these things, I'm thinking about a whale shark. Russian hospital ship Yperyod torpedoed in the Black Sea. Mr. E.S. Montague, appointed Minister of Munitions. On the 10th of July, the Italian destroyer Impetuoso torpedoed and sunk by submarine in the lower Adriatic. Germans rally and offer strong resistance on the west bank of the Stockhod. Austrians concentrate troops for the big offensive on south side of Lutsk salient. Russians claim 300,000 prisoners to date. That was another thing on a side note there with your ATA there, William Arends, with the German East Africa stuff, is I know it's yet again small numbers, but I would like to see that ratio of officer to non-officer percentages. I know it's going to be whatever, but it seemed like a hell of a lot higher percentage. I don't know, maybe it's just because of just the small number of troops. I don't know. British gain east of Ovelay and in Bois de Mametz. French advance further towards Perron, take Hill 97 southeast of Biache and La Mazette Farm. The 11th of July, Contalmaison won by British and is held against counterattacks. British also take parts of Mametz and Tron Woods. Total prisoners taken by British in 10 days of fighting, 7,526 field guns. At Verdun, Germans gain footing in Damleux Battery and east of Fermin and Chenois Woods. Germans receive reinforcements and heavy artillery to defend the passage of the Stockhod. Russians begin a fresh offensive in Armenia. General Mott, darn it, Corvinus Wargaming, I'm going to say this. I got a heap of info, though I just need to kind of assemble, I guess is what I'm saying, about the Persian campaign and what I've been finding out. It starts right from the get-go. I just got to tell you that much. It starts right from the get-go. General Maude succeeds General Gorge in command of Tigris column. But it is fascinating. There's even a character called Lawrence of Persia, and he's a German spy and whatnot. It's so cool. I was like, oh my God. So basically, we'll get into it. We're going to get into it. I want to so badly, it's not funny. German submarine shells Seaham Harbor with 1 man killed. 3 armed trawlers sunk off the Scottish coast in action with German submarines. We're doing all right. July 12th, Russians under General Yudenich advanced west of Erzurum on the Erzingen Road and recaptured Mama Kutun. An Austrian attack on the Adagi is driven back. Furious fighting continues on the Stockhod with no decisive results. British gain Mametz Wood and make progress in Tron Wood. Successful raids in Lus salient. Germans attack strongly at Verdun and gain some ground at Chapelle Saint-Fain and the intersection of Fleury-Vaux roads. And the last one, is it this one? No, it's not that one. July 13th, German raids west of, I'm not going to try, and south of La Bassée Canal are repulsed. On the Somme, British capture German howitzers and munitions. French make successful raid in Champagne. Sharp fighting in Austrian center northwest of Bukaz on the Stripa. No decisive results on the Stockhod. German submarine sinks 2 trawlers and 2 fishing boats off Whitby. Allied conference on munition output held in London. British bank holiday is suspended. British bank rate is set at 6%. I don't know what that, you know what I mean, is whatever. Let me see if I can just see if there's anything left to yabber on. Well, there is, but I want to see if there's anything that was like, okay, did I miss something that I really would have wanted to have say? I don't think so. No, we're going to stop. We've got 6 minutes. So I can, as we know, babble on forever. Yeah, 6 minutes. Okay, we'll probably just start the after hours in a couple, and that'll be that. Yet again, like I said, it's just I'm excited. Like I said, I feel like I've been given a wonderful opportunity, and I want to take advantage of this. And in order to be able to improve or whatever, I have to kind of hunker down. And the way my mind works, like I said, I need to do this. When I go to deviate, and trust me, I've got a lot of faults, a lot. That way I can go, whoa, wait a minute, is this guy, you swore an oath. So hopefully this will work out for me. Please, Tolemykus, send me your mailing address. I'd like to get this out as soon as possible. I can send it off to the post office on Monday. I can print the shipping label here ahead of time, which would be great. So we'll start off round 3. Charles Latora, yes, please send me your goodie. Please send me a nice high-res image or whatever. Chrispy Galactic, did send off a package to you. Just to let you know, it is rather large. So it's I sent it off in a I don't know if you know what the size of those things are, but it's a club pack size box for cat litter or whatever. So obviously I'm not sending you that, but it's that big. So 4.5 kilos. So get prepared. Oh my God, sorry. Charles Latorre says also Zeppelin Raider 2nd edition is coming soon. Yes, that looks like a sweetheart of a whatever. That's it. I think I'm going to go and we're going to go and hit the whatever. Thank you so much. I hope to goodness I see you next week. My main thing, like it was going to be last week, but now I feel like I'm actually going down this proper road, is hopefully have a nice little report for at least the beginning. I don't think it's going to have, everything has to be wrapped up in a tight little bow or whatever. But more or less, William Arends, what I'm trying to do is I just was like I said, I need to get to the next. I want to improve. I just don't want to be spinning my wheels, and it's frustrating. Okay, I'll say that a perfect example was this. A couple of weeks ago, World War I Association fireside chat. Only 3 of us. We're chatting away, talking to the president. I asked them about how many times to go to the World War I National Museum and Memorial in Kansas City. He says at least we go at least once a year. Try to make it obviously in the fall when they have the symposium, 3-day event. They get lectures from here, there, and everywhere. Lecturers, and all the whole things. Yes, thank you. Great for seeing everyone. I hope you have a great, good luck at work, Zoe Dufar. Great to see you. So he said, you should try to go out. I knew about these symposiums from last year. And I was like, I can't go this year, even though I'd love to go this year, because I don't have enough money to go this year. Like I've squandered my money. I've done this, that, and the other thing. And that was just one example. And I went, you have to change behaviors. In other words, so that way you can, like one of these because I don't know if I'm going to be around next year or whatever for next year's symposium. So it's like, come on. So that's what I'm saying is what I would like to get down to. Okay, hold on here. I'm going to go and grab the. I got to stop doing that all the time. I keep killing the browsers. Charles Latorre says, everyone be safe. Yeah, and try to stay cool, at least for some of us around here. Hold on here. I'm going to go to my playlists. And will it show me my playlists? There we go. And view the playlist. Now I'll present. I'm turning off my microphone now. Thank you guys so much. Wonderful to see you all. I hope to see you in a week for sure. Our office. And here we go, the war summary for July 7th to July 13th, 1916. Petrograd tells in a few illuminative words the result of the offensive of Brusilov and his coadjutors on the Eastern Front during the past month. The grand total of prisoners during the drive to date is 235,000, of whom 4,500 are officers. The enemies killed and wounded numbered, according to military expert calculation, between 200,000 and 220,000. Austrians predominate overwhelmingly among the prisoners, but a large proportion of the killed and wounded were Germans. The Russian booty reaches incalculable figures. More than 250 cannon and 700 machine guns were captured, with vast quantities of supplies and munitions. While jubilating over their successes, the Russians continue their sledgehammer blows. They took 13,000 prisoners in the fierce battles of Wednesday, 5,000 of them near Lumak, south of the Dniester, where they routed the Austro-Germans. Berlin claims that in this region, the Russian attacks frequently broke down, but in another part of the same report, a retirement of von Bothmer's right wing is admitted. The truth seems to be that Lechitsky's army has turned the Austro-German flank in southeastern Galicia, cut von Bothmer's chief of lines of communication with Hungary by way of Stanislaw and Nordwarma, and is getting into position for a battle which will roll up the enemy along the Stripa and Zlota Lipa unless von Bothmer anticipates the Russian assault by retiring to more secure lines near Lemberg. While these great victories have been won in the extreme south, Brusilov withstands magnificently the full force of the German counteroffensive along the Stier and the Stoghod in what is known as the Volhynian sphere of operations. There was danger that while the Slavs were overrunning Bukovina and southern Galicia, their efforts would be rendered nugatory by the enforced retirement of Brusilov's forces, which made the first advance and carried Lutsk and Dubno. The threat to Kovel and the whole German system of communications westward as far as the Bug was so great that from every possible quarter, German and Austrian reinforcements were brought up and thrown in great waves against the Russians before they had time to organize their lines in the reconquered territory. At first, it seemed not improbable that the Slavs would be forced back to their old front east of Lutsk and Dubno. They clung to their positions, however, with most praiseworthy persistence, and though desperate battles were reported day after day, the greatest Russian retirement recorded at any point was about 5 miles. Now there is no doubt that Brusilov will be able to keep the Germans and Austrians in play on the Stier. In recent engagements, the Russians have captured several thousand of the enemy, and near Kolki, they are once more advancing and placing in peril the left wing of the Teuton army based on Kovel. When the history of the war comes to be written, the stubborn and prolonged struggle of Brusilov against the enemy's counterattack in Volhynia will be spoken of as an even greater service to the Allied cause than his brilliant strategy and attack, which drove the enemy out of Lutsk and Dubno. North of the Pripyat marshes, ponderous Kuropatkin is fighting a duel with the equally ponderous Hindenburg for the possession of the important railway center of Baranovichi. Kuropatkin's guns already command the railway station, but much sanguinary fighting must take place before the Germans retire from the town. There are signs of a Russian concentration farther north around Smorgon for another attempt to eject the Germans from Vilna. The bear is on the move all along the eastern battle line. German reinforcements begin to make their weight felt across the Somme. The French Midnight Report tells of a series of counterattacks yesterday north of Hem at the extreme left of General Foch's army and between Estrée and Belloy on the right wing. The attacks were broken by the French fire of the Somme without the Germans being able to gain even the smallest success. South of the river, so effective was the French barrage fire that the enemy was not even able to debouch, suffered heavy losses. To the west of Ardennes, 2 German companies were caught in a communication trench and annihilated by machine gun fire. The British official report is still very indefinite. It was announced early yesterday that near Thiepval, a further slight advance had been made. The additional information was given in last night's report that, as a result of a violent bombarding, we made further progress at certain points in the main battle line. Failure to indicate these points may mean that there are still German detachments cut off within the territory held by the British Army, as they were in La Boisselle, and they are being cleaned out gradually. The British artillery fire turned upon a German battalion in column, caused the enemy many casualties. Operations to the north of Verdun are again limited to artillery actions, and the belief gains ground that the German bombardment, which included the shelling of Verdun Cathedral with heavy caliber projectiles, is intended to cover up the withdrawal of men from the Verdun campaign to the Somme. The shelling on the west bank of the Meuse has been confined to the Châteaucourt sector, but in the east side of the river, the German guns have violently bombarded the French positions from Vaux southeasterly to the Damleux battery. The Italians press steadily on the Sugana and the Adige valleys and across the Asiago plateau on the heels of the retiring Austrians. In the Astico basin on Wednesday, a commanding position was carried, which the enemy had carefully fortified and which was manned for defense. On the Isonzo, there was heavy fighting in which the Austrians tried unsuccessfully to recover positions recently taken by the Italians. A prolonged and sanguinary battle took place along the front north of Albert yesterday between the British and German armies, during which, according to the report of General Haig, the British pushed their advance with utmost gallantry and gained several important successes. At the northern end of the advance, where in the fighting of a week ago, the Germans retook most of the ground gained, the British yesterday carried by assault a further portion of an immensely strong earthwork known as Leipzig Redoubt. It is situated south of Thiepval upon a salient in the German line, and the enemy have exercised all their ingenuity in its fortification during the last 20 months. South of this position, the British troops forced their way across 500 yards of the German front line trench into the village of Auvillers. When the dispatch was sent, fierce fighting was in progress for the possession of the village. Perhaps the greatest feature of the struggle was the engagement to the east of La Boisselle. Here on Thursday night, the British had attacked and penetrated the first-line German trenches. At dawn, when they resumed their eastward advance, they found a great force of the enemy opposing them, for the Germans had chosen early morning also for a counterattack on the La Boisselle front. The battle here raged furiously, the result being an advance of the British line over a maze of German trenches on a front of nearly 2,000 yards to a depth of 500 yards. South of La Boisselle, position lies the village of Fricourt, captured early in the advance. Between Fricourt and La Boisselle, the Germans were driven from 2 woods and 3 lines of trenches. In an attempt to stay the British rush, General Haig reports that about 10 in the morning, the Prussian guard was thrown into the Contalmaison sector. Their counterattack was crushed by the British artillery fire, and they fell back to the northward, leaving 700 prisoners, including men of various regiments behind them. Continuing their advance easterly, the British infantry about noon carried the village of Contalmaison by storm, but since they have been forced out of it again by a strong counterattack. This day was a difficult one for an advance. It rained heavily. The ground was sodden from former thunderstorms, and the flooded state of the trenches added to the difficulties experienced by the British troops. Notwithstanding this, the success gained was great and important. The German casualties, General Haig states, must have been severe. Large numbers of the enemy troops retiring from the open were caught by the British artillery, and a village in the rear of the German lines, which was crowded with reserves, was heavily shelled. The continuation of General Haig's advance from the point of junction with the French north of the Somme to the Ancre is vital to the success of the Allies' plan to drive the Germans over the Somme in the region south of Péronne, and to capture that town by an enveloping movement. The salient, created in the Allied line by the French advance along both banks of the river, would have remained far too acute to be risked had the British advance been stayed at La Boisselle and Montauban. The present movement by which the British are forcing their way to the east and northeast is intended to cover the left flank of General Foch's army. This is clearly the reason for the French inactivity yesterday on both banks of the Somme, which is noted in the French midnight report. The British gains yesterday must have involved heavy casualties, for every village hill, and wood on this part of the German front is a well-organized fortress. The result of the day's operations, however, has materially reduced the danger to the French along the Somme. Another such day's work will enable them to go far forward and capture Paronne without apprehension of a flank attack from the north. The Verdun struggle has renewed yesterday morning in the neighborhood of the Thiamont work. The Germans launched several attacks, and in one of them succeeded in obtaining a foothold in the advanced French trenches. By a counterattack in the afternoon, the French regained the lost ground and re-established their line in the immediate neighborhood of Thiamont. All other attempts of the Germans to advance were repulsed by machine gun fire and cost them heavy losses. There is more activity on the Belgian front than at any time since the spring opened. What the Belgian official report speaks of as of a heavy battle took place yesterday morning in the vicinity of Nieuport, near the seacoast. There was lively fighting later along the Yasser. The Belgian guns are pounding away heavily at the German trenches on this part of the front. Farther south, the Germans are again shelling the Canadian positions around Ypres. The enemy's lines in the east begin to give away at many widely separated points, indicating that the Austro-German army is spread out so thinly that it can no longer hold its ground against the determined attacks of the Slavs. The Teuton official reports yesterday admitted the withdrawal of the Austro-German forces at 3 points south of the Pripyat marshes. The Berlin report told of the evacuation of a salient in the German lines on the Sarzorsk sector north of Kolki under pressure by a superior Russian force. Vienna admitted 2 withdrawals to new positions, one of the retreats taking place southeast of the Dniester near Bukaz, on the other near the Carpathians. The Russian reports give a better idea of what is happening. Trench warfare has come to an end along the lower Styr, and the Austro-Germans are on the run in the open. The Petrograd official report states, the enemy took flight under the fire of our artillery. Our cavalry, pursuing, charged into them in the region of the Voltsek and captured a Krupp battery of 6 cannon, which hardly had time to fire a few shots. At the end of the violent battle, we occupied the village of Komarov and Grady. According to the latest reports, our cavalry carried the railway station Manavici, 50 miles east of Kovel, and in the course of the pursuit captured another battery of 4 cannon and 3 pieces of artillery. The change from the trench warfare to field actions in which cavalry plays a part is of the utmost importance. Russia in the Cossacks, a numerous and hard body of cavalry. The Germans on both fronts have few horsemen to face the Allied cavalry, and once in the open, may be hustled along rapidly. The Russian victory on the lower Stripa on Tuesday and Wednesday was far more important than at first reported. The Austrians and Germans numbered 270 officers and 9,900 men. Over 5,000 rifles were also taken by the victors and much war material. The occupation of Haliz and Stanislaw is a matter now of only a few days. In the region north of the Pripyat, the struggle centers near Baranovichi, and here the Russians have been winning ground with the bayonet after fierce fighting. Hindenburg is heavily outnumbered on this part of the front and is likely to be forced back before long. The Italians also are doing well. Everywhere the Germans and Austrians are on the anvil, and the hammer strokes of the Allies are strong and heavy. Without undue haste and with undue necessary delay, the Anglo-French advance in the valley of the Somme continues. The confidence with which General Joffre, after perfecting his preparations, launched the offensive has been justified by results. The ground over which the Allies' advance had been fortified with the utmost ingenuity of German military engineers during almost 2 years. It had been prepared especially to resist the fire of heavy artillery, and the enemy believed that no bombardment could reach and destroy the shell-proof underground galleries established all along the front. In a little over a week, the French and British forces have hammered their way through the greater part of this maze of defensive positions. A similar rate of progress for another week will enable them to emerge into the open east of the Somme in a country declared by Allied aviators to have little preparation for defense. Open field warfare is entirely a possibility on the Western Front as a result of the success gained since the launching of the offensive on July 1st, if only. Progress during Saturday and Sunday took place on both sides of the river. On Saturday morning, the French attacked the village of Harro to the southeast of Montauban, which had been carried by the British in the first rush a week ago. There's been much heavy fighting around Harro during the past week. The village was a well-fortified position, but in 35 minutes, the French infantry penetrated it and the village of Mamelon to the north. Early in the afternoon, the Germans tried to recover the positions, but their attack was broken by the French fire. In the various actions of the day, the enemy suffered heavy losses and left in the hands of the French during the attack on Harro 633 prisoners, of whom 10 were officers. While this attack was in progress, British troops, after a fierce bombardment, stormed a line of trenches immediately to the north of the French positions and gained lodgment in a strongly defeated wood known as the Bois de Tron. There they captured 150 prisoners and several machine guns. Later, the Germans launched a strong counterattack in massed formation. Advancing in the open, the enemy were met by a fire of 18-pounders and the famous French 75s. They lost very heavily and retired in disorder. To the northeast of the village of Obelay, there was hand-to-hand fighting during Saturday, in which the British made an appreciable advance. Having by this means flattened the salients on the left front of the Allied advance, and having brought up heavy artillery to guard against the German counterattack from Comble, the French resumed on Sunday their advance upon Paron. South of the Somme, an attack was delivered on a front of about 4,000 yards from the river to the north of Belloy. In the whole line attack, the Midnight Paris report says, our troops carried enemy positions to a depth from 1 to 2,000 yards. We carried by assault the village of Blache and have established our position on a line from this village to the environments of Baurois. In the course of this action, we took 300 prisoners. The total number of prisoners captured by the French since the opening of the battle is 9,500, including 76 cannon and several hundred machine guns. Sunday's advance carries the French to a point on the east bank of the Somme opposite Paron. The suburb of Saint-Radegonde stands between the French lines and the main street of the town, which can be rendered untenable. Immediately, the French heavy guns are brought up and opened up upon it. It is not likely, however, that this will be done. The French have been sparing their towns unless in cases of absolute necessity. Jesus, of course. The probability is that a crossing of the river will be made farther south near Brie. To the north, of course, the French are already on the same side of the river as that on which Paron is situated, and they are certain to advance from him and attack in force Clery-sur-Somme, which is the most important defensive point on the north side of the river, now held by the enemy. Oh man, of course, well, you have to destroy your own land. The attack of the Allies will assuredly be pressed. Having pulverized the German lines, the Anglo-French are not likely to remain inactive in their present positions until the enemy constructs new trenches in the country to the east of Paron. There seems to be no lack of munitions or of cannon. The morale of the Allied troops is excellent, and that of the Germans begins to give way under the continuous pounding of the big guns. It is clearly a time for pressing the assault. Every day's delay enables the Germans to bring up to this sector of the front more heavy artillery. Last night's British official report states that the artillery was more active yesterday and that artillery duels took place in several sectors. The British guns still dominate those of the enemy and greatly lessen the losses sustained in holding the captured territory. There was sharp fighting on the British front yesterday afternoon in the neighborhood of Obelay, which General Haig reports has been converted by the incessant fighting into a mass of ruined trenches, unrecognizable debris, and shell holes full of mud. Despite these conditions, steady progress has been made. In the Bois de Tron, Yesterday afternoon, the Germans launched 2 violent attacks against the new British positions, but both completely broke down under the effective fire of the British guns. In Volhynia, there has been exceedingly heavy fighting. The Russians advancing toward Kovel have crossed the Stokhod River at Ugly. The official Petrograd report announces that the Teutons are here retiring in great disorder. The drive toward Kovel gains in momentum daily. The Austro-German army is in its retreat, is setting fire to the villages through which it passes, thus indicating that it does not expect to return. Hard upon the heels of the retreating invaders ride the Cossacks, and the Russian infantry follows by forced marches. The Teuton army entrusted with the defense of Kovel consists of 200,000 men. The German reinforcements have been used to stiffen the Austrian formation, and it is believed that when these Russians reach a point 10 or 15 miles east of Kovel, they will encounter very determined opposition. During these operations on the Styr and the Stockade between Wednesday and Friday of last week, the Russians captured at least 300 officers and about 12,000 unwounded men. They also took 45 guns of large and small calibers, a similar number of machine guns, and much war material. On the Galician front, General Lechitsky's army yesterday occupied Deletin after a violent fighting. The Petrograd official report states that this railway junction is of great importance and that at many points in the neighborhood, depots of war material, including steel shells, grenades, cartridges, iron, and wire, have been captured. There's been no marked advance in the Baranovichi region north of the Pripyat marshes. The enemy there is offering desperate resistance and heavy fighting continues. The arrival at Baltimore of a German submarine carrying a cargo of 750 tons of dyestuffs, which is extremely important at this time. Trust me, man, it is. And well, from what I've been reading, another valuable exports raises a problem of importance for the government of the United States. I'm just saying, it's amazing. Like, you think dyestuffs, like, what the hell? The submarine, it's just amazing how people found it so valuable. The submarine is reported to be unarmed, but if the Germans are in a position to do so, there's nothing to prevent them supplying the vessel with torpedoes after she leaves Baltimore at some predetermined point outside the 3-mile limit. Upon the return trip to Germany, she might become a tremendous danger to troop ships and other vessels en route between Canada and the Great Britain. An entirely new question in international law is raised by the vessel's presence at an American port. I'm going to pause. The French now dominate the Somme, immediately to the west of Péronne. The midnight Paris report tells of the capture of Hill 97 to the southeast of Biache by a brilliant attack yesterday afternoon. We took this height, which dominates the river, says the report, and which had been tremendously fortified by the enemy, as well as Maisonette Farm, situated at the top of the hill. The French also took near Biache a redoubt where a German detachment had maintained itself, and with its 113 prisoners, including 10 officers. This success, following upon the advance of Sunday night in the same sector, gives the French control of the west bank of the river opposite Péronne, and must inevitably result in the retirement of the Germans to the east side of the Somme as far south as Brie. North of the river, where am I? No, I'm still there. Okay, thank God. North of the river, a fierce and prolonged struggle for possession of the wood of Tron near Mametz has resulted in a partial setback to General Haig's troops. The British secured a footing in the wood on Saturday morning after a heavy bombardment. Advancing through the wood towards the front, north, they beat back a fierce German counterattack. On Saturday night and Sunday, the enemy, who had evidently set great store on the wood, made no less than 5 desperate attempts to drive out the British. All of them failed, and the Germans lost very heavily. Yesterday morning, after a 6th attempt, and at the expense of very heavy casualties, the Germans succeeded in entering the wood, where the fighting still continues. While the battle for the wood of Tron proceeded, the British yesterday gained a lodgment in the wood of Mametz, where the enemy's defense hitherto had resisted all efforts to expel him. Ground was also gained east of Ouvillé and La Boisselle. They made progress also near Contal-Mazan, where a small wood was incorporated in the front, and several hundred prisoners were taken. The steady daily bag of captives is one of the most significant features of the fighting in the valley of the Somme. German detachments isolated in redoubts and in trench systems beyond which the advance of the Allies has been pushing no longer resist to the last extremity. The British and French artillery fire is so deadly that, rather than withstand it, the Germans emerge from their subterranean shelters and surrender in considerable groups. This evidence that German soldiers are tiring of the war is corroborative of the testimony supplied from the Eastern Front, where also an increase in the proportion of German surrendering is noted. Formerly, the Austro-Hungarians there surrendered when cut off, and the Germans resisted to the death. The operations at Verdun have taken a place of minor importance in the dispatches and in the eyes of the world since the opening of the Somme offensive. The German military writers still insist that Verdun will be taken, but the evidence that German troops have been removed from the front there to strengthen the army on the Somme as well as in Volhynia is indisputable. If the French regard Verdun as vital, they can assuredly continue to hold it indefinitely. There were prolonged artillery duels yesterday at Foix de Terre and at other points, but no infantry assaults. The Russian advance towards Kovel, it is officially announced, continues. The army of General Kaledin is crossing the Stockade at various points, but its movements are hampered by the fact that the bridges and means of crossing have in most cases been destroyed by the opposing armies. Near Svidniki and at other points on the left bank of the river, lively fighting is proceeding. During the past week on this part of the front, the troops of General Kaledin have taken 641 officers, 21,145 men, and 55 guns, besides much other booty. There has been no further advance in Galicia, and in the region north of the Pripyat, German attacks have been without result. It is noted that in the Baltic, a Russian submarine has sunk a large German ore-laden steamer. There seems to be no doubt that the Turks have brought up large forces to the Mesopotamia front east of Baghdad and have for the time removed all danger of the capture of the city of the Caliphs by an advance from the east. A Constantinople report says that the Russians, who recently evacuated Kermanshah on the Persian border, have fallen back once again into the mountains after a 7-hour battle. There's been no news for some time of Sir Percy Lake's army on the Tigris. The Turks are doubtless in sufficient force along the river, as well as east of Baghdad, to prevent any progress. An entirely different condition of affairs is reported from the Caucasus front. South of the Taurus range, it is reported officially, the Russians advanced and captured an important mountain neck, and in a line of heights that the Turks had spent much time in fortifying. Elsewhere on this front, the Russians have had substantial successes. The occupation of Tanga, the terminus on the Indian Ocean of the railway, which runs through the most fertile part of German East Africa from the sea to the foothills of Kilimanjaro, is officially announced. The Germans offered only slight resistance. The Germans are all retiring towards the Central Railway, where the final roundup will take place. For the first time since the operations in the Valley of the Somme began 12 days ago, General Haig last night permitted a note of jubilation to find place in his official report. Following the occupation of the village of Contal-Mazan, after hard fighting on Monday night and the storming of most of the German trenches remaining in Mametz Wood, the British yesterday recaptured almost the whole of the wood of Tron, from which the Germans had ejected them on Monday after 6 costly assaults. All the wood, save a small corner of the north, is now in possession of the British troops. These gains make it possible for Sir Douglas Haig to say that after 10 days and nights of continuous fighting, our troops have completed their methodical capture of the whole of the enemy's first system of defense on a front of 14,000 yards. This system of defense consisted of numerous continuous lines of fire trenches, support trenches, and reserve trenches, extending various depths from 2,000 to 4,000 yards, and included 5 strongly fortified villages, numerous heavily wired and entrenched woods, and a large number of immensely strong redoubts. The capture of each of these trenches represented an operation of some importance. The whole of them is now in our hands. The spoil of war has been important. 26 field guns, a naval gun, an anti-aircraft gun, and a heavy howitzer are among the cannon taken, while the number of German prisoners exceeds 7,500. As the French have captured over 10,000 on their front, the German army, by capture alone, has lost almost an entire division of troops during the advance. That the attack will be continued with the utmost vigor is certain. There was a lull in the French front yesterday, which was devoted to clearing out a wood to the north of Mazenette. The French heavy guns must be brought up close to the Somme before the attack on Peronne begins. From the high plateau on the west bank of the river, the French artillerists will be able to look down over a great stretch of country in the river valley, both south and east. Their task after the guns are placed will be to smash the German ammunition depots, railway stations, bridges, and other means of communication to a depth from 8 to 12 miles in the German rear, while the smaller caliber weapons are leveling the enemy's first line trenches preparatory to a fresh assault. Several days may elapse before the preparations for the next move in the great drama are completed. Meanwhile, the aviators of the Allies are fighting numerous battles in the air to prevent the Germans from learning what is happening within their lines. They are also raiding the German railways. On Monday night, 220 bombs were dropped on stations where troop movements were going on, especially at Hem, Fer, and Chauny. The Germans scored a win yesterday to the east of Verdun. The midnight French report states that during the general attack on parts of the front east of the Meuse, the enemy, after various unsuccessful attempts, which resulted in great losses, gained a footing in the Domlou Hill battery and in some sections of the French trenches in Fumain Wood. The Domlou battery is an important work south of the Fort of Vaux and overlooks to the east the railway from which Verdun to Metz, that at this point emerges from a tunnel by which it is carried under the ridge occupied by Fort Sauville and Ardennes on the inner line of defenses. Their 2 forts, or rather the ridges upon which they stand, are now the key positions to Verdun. If they are taken, the French will not retain the city except by great sacrifices of life, which General Joffre might not be disposed to authorize. The Somme offensive may do much to relieve the German pressure on the Verdun defenses. It's kind of the whole point, isn't it? The Teutons are making desperate attempts to stay the Russian advance towards Kovel along the Sarny-Kovel and Rovno-Kovel railways. Mind you, that thing's been in the works for ages, so I should really just say that because it wasn't due to that. It's just kind of nice that it is. It is recognized that this covering attack is the very most dangerous feature of the Russian operations, and from every point where men can be spared, reinforcements are now being brought up and thrown into the struggle. A week ago, the Germans believed the Slav flood had been stayed, but in the interval, the Russians have advanced at least 25 miles and are now firmly holding the left bank of the Stockholm. In the endeavor to keep them there, the Germans have brought up powerful artillery, Petrograd says, and are offering a desperate resistance. Berlin asserts that south of the Sarny-Kovel railway, the Russians have been driven back with a loss of over 700 prisoners and 3 machine guns. The check is not likely to prove important. Military writers in Petrograd claim that no more natural barriers in the form of rivers and swamps now stand between the Tsar's troops and Kovel. It is believed an assault will soon be made upon the defenses the Germans have been creating to the east of the city since Brusilov's drive began a month ago. The Austrians attempted to win back some of their lost territory in Bukovina and to that end, yesterday attacked the Russians in considerable strength northwest of Kimpolong in southern Bukovina. Petrograd reports that the Austrians were thrown back after violent engagements at various points and took refuge in flight. In the Caucasus, the Turks have been defeated near Belbert and in the mountains south of the Black Sea at another point farther south, where they lost 350 prisoners and a most powerfully organized position, and also in the direction of Diyarbakir, where a Turkish offensive was routed. There are no signs of a general forward movement, however, in this region. An official Italian report announces that the Austrians have found it necessary to recall to the scene of operations in the Trentino troops that had been withdrawn for service against the Russians. 28,000 men actually en route to the east were recalled as a result of the progress of the Italian offensive, and 5 divisions on the front of departure were held to meet the Italian advance, which continues from day to day with satisfactory results. The Italian artillery has been materially strengthened and is now actively combating that of the Austrians in the Adige Valley. The Arab revolt against Turkish rule in Arabia has spread to a point of 200 miles south of Jeddah, the seaport on the Red Sea seized by the rebels under orders of the Sharif of Mecca. The revolt is a very serious thing for the Turks. It is liable to break out with disastrous consequences in the valley of the Euphrates and in Syria. General Haig reports that British troops yesterday recaptured all the ground lost on Tuesday night in Mametz Woods and now hold the entire wood. Some progress has also been made in Thron Wood, where the very large number of German dead indicate how costly was the enemy's attempt to retake it. The Germans launched 2 attacks yesterday against Contalmaison, but both were repulsed. Berlin, speaking of the result of the struggle in the various positions near the Albert Bopin Road, admits no reverses. The bulletin of the War Office simply states that fighting is continuing with bitter stubbornness. There was relative calm all along the French front on both sides of the Somme. The artillery continues to shower projectiles over environs of Peronne, but it is doubtful if the heavy guns, without which it would not be safe to launch a fresh offensive, are yet in position. The largest of these guns, the 15-inch howitzers that can throw a ton of metal and high explosives with the utmost accuracy upon marks as far distance as 14 or 15 miles, are probably placed on cement platforms, holy moly, and can only be brought up near the front either on specially built roads or on railway tracks laid for that purpose. A look behind the British and French lines would show thousands of engineers and road builders busily at work getting the artillery into position for the second stage of the Great Drive. Gaining potential there, huh? Following up their success in securing the lodgment of the Domlu work to the south of Vaux on the Verdun front, the Germans launched 18,000 men yesterday morning from the village of Fleury and the woods of Vaux and the Chapitre in the direction of Fort Souville, the key of the French second-line defenses. The Midnight Paris report says that, in spite of the massed assaults on the French relatively narrow, the Germans were only able, at the cost of huge losses, to gain a little ground near the Chapelle of Saint-Fin, at the point where the roads from Vaux and Fleury meet. This statement indicates that the Germans have progressed a considerable distance along the ridge on which the forts of Vaux, held by them in Souville, which they are attacking, are situated. Berlin reports that in pushing their positions up towards Souville, German troops captured yesterday 30 officers and 2,106 men and completely repulsed a French counterattack. The most difficult part of their task still lies before them. Southward from Vaux, there is a dip in the conformation of the ridge. In this hollow are the remains of what was once a considerable wood, among the tree stumps of which the advancing Germans found some shelter. Now they're out of this favorable position and must advance toward Fort Sauville up a long and gradual slope where they have to dig deep to hide themselves from the French on the high ground in front. The enemy will naturally seek to cover their advance by an overpoweringly strong artillery fire from Vaux and Douaumont and the gun positions farther north. The French reports refer frequently to the violent nature of the bombardment at this point, and it seems reasonably certain that in the attack on Fort Sauville, there will be a concentration of gunfire such as will surpass all previous experiences. The Crown Prince seems to be determined to take Verdun if it costs him the throne, and it may, if he does, for the price already paid has been terrific, and Sauville will cost perhaps as many lives as Douaumont and Vaux combined. There appears to be truth in the German claim that for the time the Russian advance toward Kovel has been stayed on the banks of the Stockholm River. Petrograd makes no answer to the claim of Berlin that Russian advance guards who had gained a foothold on the left bank of the river that nearest to Kovel have been driven back or destroyed. The Russian statement tells of persistent fighting and adds that near the village of Gruchivka, the Teutons made their appearance on the right bank of the river, but later were ejected. The transport difficulties in the marshy country through which Brusilov's armies have been advancing are great, and it may take some time to assemble enough ammunition on the banks of the river to enable the Russian guns to protect the troops during its passage. There is also a hint in the dispatches of a possible diversion of a part of Brusilov's strength to an attack on Pinsk, an important railway center situated at the apex of what is now an acute salient in the enemy's lines. A drive towards Pinsk from the south might mean the evacuation of the city without serious resistance. It is certain that the restless Brusilov will not leave his men inactive while the enemy builds up a new front to replace that which now lies far to the east of the Russian positions. It is reported from Rome that until the Russian offensive began in June, half of the military forces of the Austria-Hungary were massed in the Trentino and along the Isonzo. There were, it is estimated, 750,000 Austrians on the Italian frontier. The losses of the Trentino offensive were 150,000 men, and the need of men to meet the Russian drive resulted in the withdrawal of troops from the Isonzo, if not also from the Trentino. The Austrian artillery is the only thing that prevents the Italians from rushing to the enemy's positions along the Isonzo, where their infantry is now spread out very thin. It is believed that General Cardona may soon begin a new offensive on the Isonzo. Had he more guns, he would be at the job, for the Austrians are taking heavy chances on this front. They're reported to be calling home troops from the Balkans to strengthen their lines. In the Trentino, the Italians continue to make progress, particularly on the Konizunga ridges to the west of the river. The Austrians are once more engaged in the pastime of smashing the villages from which they have retired to prevent them from being used for shelter by the Italians. The final paragraph. The army of the Grand Duke Nicholas, having beaten back an offensive launched by the Turks to the west of Erzurum and taken a new line fortified by the enemy, together with 99 Turkish officers, holy cow, this is a biggie, and 1,684 men, has advanced to the upper Euphrates en route to Erzingen and has taken the town of Mamakutun on the river bank by assault. In the course of their retreat, the Turks set fire to the town, but measures were taken to extinguish the flames. Mamakutun is a little over 55 miles west of Erzurum and is not pronounced that way, and about 43 east of Erzingen, the immediate objective of the Grand Duke's Central Army. The victory will enable the Russians to cross the river and continue their march up upon Erzingen, through which the comparatively level country upon the north side of the upper, or as it is called by geographers, Western Euphrates. Lord of mercy. I hope that went well, and I hope to see you next week.